There are contenders and there are pretenders, and believe me, we know who's who.
Step up to the plate. It's the Locked On MLB Squad Show, sponsored by Game Time. From the Dodgers to the Astros, the Mets to the Rangers, and everyone else in the league, with the experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you the most comprehensive breakdown of all the action around the horn. We're coming in spikes up, no hurt feelings allowed, so squad up.
Squad up indeed, and welcome to this Locked On MLB Squad Show. The latest edition comes at you with J.D. Haffron from Locked On Cardinals, Brett Chansey, Locked On Astros, Chuck Freeman of Locked On Brewers, and myself, your host, Jeff Carr, one half Locked On Reds. I almost tripped over all of that. And also your Locked On MLB channel manager. And we're glad that you're alongside us here today because we're going to be talking about the bona fide contenders, the absolute pretenders, and the possibly, in between folks on the bubble there when it comes to the MLB playoffs on this MLB Squad Show that is brought to you by Game Time. Download that Game Time app today, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to save $20 off your first purchase. That's Game Time. They got the lowest prices on the best tickets, guaranteed. All right, let's start with this because we have our man Chuck from Locked On Brewers on here. Chuck, it feels like the Brewers have won 60 out of the last 50. Seems like they're the team to beat in the National League, and that's on top of the Brewers. Like, is there anybody that you're worried about right now?
Boy, it's just been an incredible run. They are 41 and 15 or so over that last span. It's the best 60-game stretch in Brewers history. And I'm telling you, it's just been unbelievable. And no, right now, I mean, it's easy to say, hey, the Brewers can't lose another game. But I mean, that the feeling in Milwaukee is like, man, they could beat anybody. And there's never been a feeling like that ever. You know, there's always been pessimists and, wait till the Dodgers or the Cubs are going to get hot or whoever. Or if we run into St. Louis in the playoffs, which we're not this year, thankfully. But I don't, right now, the way the Brewers are playing, there is such a belief at a high with this team that it's weird to say that, but I don't think they fear anybody. There's nobody right now because, I mean, they just went 6-0 against the Dodgers, 6-0 road trip. This is about as high as the franchise has ever been in the regular season, ever.
Shots fired, JD.
I know. I was like, I appreciate that dig. What did I ever do to you, Chuck? Jeez.
Hey, you've taken shots at me on the MLB show.
Wow.
The nightly show.
But no, I think that there is just this crazy feeling from the outside looking in at the Brewers that it's not that they have this just studly bona fide star player that you have to worry about. It's that you don't know who you have to worry about. You just know you have to worry because in some given game, somebody's going to step up. If it's Christian Yelich, I mean, he is the closest that there is to a star in Milwaukee. And I think that he has had the kind of career that you would say he is in that upper echelon, but you also have guys stepping up like Joey Ortiz or Isaac Collins, or you just insert a AI generated sounding name, and then all of a sudden that guy's hitting 300 and he's got like 20 bombs and 80.
Andrew Vaughn. There he is.
He stunk in Chicago. The White Sox were happy that they got rid of him.
Right. I mean, I think too, Chuck, you talk about the optimism, and I think this year in 2025, you have a lot of teams who in recent memory, the fan base is pessimistic about what they're going to do in the playoffs. The Brewers, the Blue Jays, the Mariners, teams that have all had high hopes going into a season. The Padres, we can throw them in there, where they look like they're red hot. They're going to set the world on fire. And I remember a couple years ago, Ben Verlander was picking the Brewers, and the Brewers are going to win the World Series. And then they just, it's like some of these teams have hit this, it's like this wall that's imaginary. But what the Brewers are doing this year to overtake the Dodgers with that best record in the NL and in the league and get to 70 wins, I mean, that's huge. And for you to say there's actual optimism over pessimism, the rest of the National League probably needs to be a little concerned because you guys seem to be legit this year.
Well, here's the thing: is I feel like when teams are complacent against the Brewers, and this, August is always the dog days in baseball, where it's a long haul for these guys, for all these guys. But the Brewers, like under Pat Murphy, they bring that college attitude. They have young guys on this team that are hungry. And if you make mistakes and you fumble the ball around and you throw away a wild pitch or a pickoff throw, the Brewers, I mean, the nickname, the T-shirts going around town, they're the fighting woodpeckers. That's what Murphy has named them, because they just get at you and they're like a mosquito. And they just, like a gnat, and you swat them and they come back, and they swat them and they come back. Yeah, Jeff, like you were saying, they're some no-namers. Andrew Vaughn comes over here, and I said this on my podcast this morning. I said he's turned into Mickey Mantle. I mean, he's got 7 home runs in 22 games. And the guy was banished to the minor leagues with the worst team in baseball, the White Sox. So, I mean, I would like to think this is going to be sustainable, but the Brewers are putting guys like Isaac Collins, a Rule 5 pick, in the heart of the order, and he's producing. And he's a Rookie of the Year candidate. And we never even talked about this guy in the offseason because he wasn't even going to make the team. So it's just been I've never seen something like this in sports. This bunch of cast-offs and all that, suddenly you just can't lose.
Can I ask something? As well as things are going right now, and it seems like whoever you guys plug in, they immediately take off and do very well. Are you nervous at all? Is there a thought that maybe they turn into a pumpkin at some point, and that some of these guys that over the longevity of their career haven't produced, that they're going to come back down a little bit? Or do you think everybody stays the course just because of the aura that you guys have going on in that clubhouse?
Well, I thought going after the All-Star break, they went in and lost. They had just swept the Dodgers before the All-Star break. And I go, okay, then now they're going to go into Los Angeles, and that'll be like the litmus test. They go into LA and they sweep the Dodgers. And you guys played really well against them this past week, JD. I thought you guys could have swept them in that series. Not one game they blew you out, but yeah, they just keep going in, and they just keep going in and winning 2 or 3 or sweeping series, and it's just it's incredible. I mean, they don't just win 2 or 3. They just they've had a pair of 9-game winning streaks on the season. They have a 6-gamer going on right now. I mean, they've only lost 2 in a row twice this summer since like mid-June. 2 in a row. That's the most they've lost, and then they come back and they win 5 in a row. They were floundering around the 500 mark around Memorial Day. So to be 26 over at this point, that's an amazing run. And yeah, I think there's always the thought, well, are things going to level out? But man, every time I think that, this team goes out and not only wins a game, but they'll just go out and get off to an early lead, and it's a rocking chair victory.
I do think it's interesting because I remember us having this discussion on the squad show earlier this season, asking, when do the Cubs stop looking down on the NL Central and they look at everybody else in the National League? And we thought that the Cubs were going to be there at the end of the season. And now it's clear that it's the Brewers. And he just joined us. He is Justin Latta from Locked On Guardians. Justin, why will the Brewers not fall victim to what the Cubs are doing?
Why will they not? Well, they've got the culture. I don't know. I said earlier today, I said they can't keep getting away with this. They keep getting away with it every year. Every year, guys come out of that team, and like they lost Corbin Burns. Okay, no big deal. They haven't had Brandon Woodruff for a couple of years. Okay, no big deal. We have Freddie Peralta. Like, they traded Josh Hader. Okay, we have Devin Williams. Okay, well, now you got other guys. Like, they just keep finding guys. Like Chuck said, like, nobody was talking about Isaac Collins. Like, is he going to show up in the playoffs? Is he going to be a guy that turns into a pumpkin? Maybe. But they just keep finding ways. Now the thing I do worry about is Jackson Churio. That's not a good injury. I don't like that. That scares me.
They've been playing without him.
Might be the only thing that holds him back. Yeah, that's something that scares me long term. And they might not. There's a lot of infielder guys there that are kind of iffy on hitting, but again, they keep getting away with it every year. So I'm forced to believe they're going to keep getting away with it.
They can't keep getting away with it, but they might just do it. And I will say this, we focus really heavy on the National League, where it feels like the Brewers are the team to beat, but it's clear that there really isn't that team in the American League that it's like that team is head and shoulders above everybody else, because I don't know that I buy the Toronto Blue Jays. The best way to get down to the ballpark or get down to the football stadium, with football heating up too, is with Game Time. Steve and I use Game Time just about every time we go down to the ballpark, because they've got great last minute deals on tickets everywhere in the stadium. Sometimes you can find some really good deals. Maybe the weather's not so great, but for whatever reason you're down by the stadium, you're going to find some really good zone deals on some seats you may not necessarily buy tickets for in advance, because Game Time's got amazing deals. Plus, you can see the view from your seat if you're going on the road with the Reds, or if you're going to a brand new ballpark or a brand new stadium, and you can see exactly what your view looks like. Game Time makes sure that you know everything about your tickets before you hit the purchase button, because they take the guesswork out of buying tickets. That's over on Game Time. And when you download the app today, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB and you'll save $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. That's over on the Game Time app today. They got the last minute deals at the lowest prices guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On MLB part of your everyday routine. There is a podcast for your favorite team, whether it's the St. Louis Cardinals, the Houston Astros, the Cleveland Guardians, the Milwaukee Brewers, the Cincinnati Reds, or the Oakland not Oakland, Sacramento. No, we don't say Sacramento. The A's. Booney's got you covered on the A's too. Everybody's got a podcast. You got to check them out today. Make sure you subscribe and make us all part of your everyday routine. All right, so we talked a lot about, it feels like the Brewers are looking down on everybody in the National League. In the American League, it's easy to say the Blue Jays, because the Blue Jays have been on this heater. They're at the top of the league right now. But I feel like the American League is going to be that league that whoever just makes it in to the playoffs can go on a run. And Brett, man, I feel like Houston's got the pitching to do that.
Yes, we do, but they've heavily depended on, Framber Valdez, Hunter Brown. They've had a couple hiccups. The pitching has sprung a leak a little bit lately. They haven't performed as much, but the bats have started heating up with the addition of Jesus Sanchez and Carlos Correa, definitely invigorating some life into that lineup. But Luis Garcia struck out the side tonight in AAA Sugarland. Arrighetti just came back. He struggled a little bit, but I anticipate he'll get right. Getting him back, getting Javier back, getting Spencer Arrighetti back. I think those three guys coming back alone are like their own trade deadline acquisitions. We just added another arm, a right-hander out of Atlanta, Amdelo Santos, who I think actually is not a bad pickup. And he had a sinker at one time in 2024. Who knows? Maybe there's something else that he can bring, because his slider has a 38% swing and miss rate. So you love that. If the Astros pitching is healthy and is producing the way that it knows how to, we've got Yonder Diaz heating up. Again, Carlos Correa, Sanchez, Altuve. If Yordan comes back, we got 47 games back. If he comes back the last 25 games of the season and just produces at the plate, the Astros have a chance to be one of the favorites in the AL. But I'll be honest with you. I'm a little nervous about the Mariners, and I'm a little nervous about the Rangers. I thought the Mariners would be there, but the Rangers have started. The Rangers pitching is phenomenal. Their starting pitching is phenomenal, but the AL is wide open. So you could be anywhere from, and I would go out on a limb and say even Kansas City, they're on the outside looking in, but Cleveland, Seattle, Boston, Texas, Detroit, Toronto. Who is going to get hot at the right moment? Because once you make it in, that's the hard part. And there's some guys that are going to be on the outside looking in, hoping the Astros don't have too tough a road, 47 games. Let's see if they can get it done.
The Mariners are, to me, there's nobody. Okay, let's start with this. There's everybody in the American League is a fry short of a Happy Meal in the American League, but I think the Mariners are the most complete team. They went out and got Josh Naylor. They have Eugenio Suarez, Cal Raleigh, depending on what happens with Aaron Judge, this injury coming back. Like Cal Raleigh, I think still should be the MVP, doing it as a catcher. They have a complete lineup, right? They have pretty much a complete lineup. The pitching staff might be the best in baseball. They have a good bullpen. And I think those guys are hungry because they just haven't had it. So I think if anybody's complete in the American League, it's the Mariners. But like Brett said, it's about who gets hot when and who gets in. Like nobody saw what the Tigers could do last year because, like, yeah, you had Tarek Skubal in the playoffs, and you were like, okay, what are they going to do after that? And then they went on that run, and it worked. So anything can happen. But like if you're looking at it like on August 8th, I think the Mariners are the most complete team in the American League. It's just a matter of are they going to be hot at the right time? They look good right now.
I think one team in the American League, the Boston Red Sox, I was talking about the Brewers don't lose. I think the Red Sox at Fenway, man, it just seems like they win every night at Fenway. And just some sort of crazy thing happens and, they win and they haven't, God, I think they've got a little bit of a winning streak at home, but man, they're great. They're coming on strong and really good. And Bregman is healthy. And man, I think the Red Sox in the East. On the other hand, the Yankees, who I thought was going to win that division, man, they haven't been the same since Toronto swept them a couple of weeks ago in Toronto.
Yeah, is Boone out? Like, is this it for him? Or is he, because I know Stacey believes he's untouchable.
That's what it seems like over the years. That there have been many excuses and reasons to get rid of him by now, and he just keeps coming back.
He has.
Hey, he wasn't the one that traded for all those relievers that are failing. Boone didn't trade for all those guys.
Yeah.
No, but I think too. Look, the frustration in New York is clearly. I mean, they made it to the World Series last year, right? But when they got to the World Series, they only won one game. So really, in Yankees fans' minds, that was a failure. Making it to the World Series was not enough. And they've been yearning for that World Series title, we all know, since 2009. And when you got a guy like Aaron Judge, I mean, diehard Yankees fans have told me, until Aaron Judge wins a World Series, he can't be a Yankee legend. I'm like, I think that's a little harsh. But there are some fans, they have that banner as their standard. And so, again, I love what you said about the Mariners. That is what scares me the most about them. Their pitchers are really, really good. Please, Julio Rodriguez, don't become the player that we were dreading you becoming. He has had a little bit of down year, but gotten hot lately. Cal Riley, we would love for you to go into a slump in September. I would not be heartbroken over that. But I just think I think the playoffs in general, Jeff, no matter if it's National League or American League, is probably going to be one of the most fun and competitive that we've seen. And there's going to be a surprise somewhere. And I know we're all hoping that our team is that surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's surprising even right now that we really haven't even mentioned the Detroit Tigers. Like, it kind of feels like they have just coasted a bunch here recently and look kind of vulnerable. Like, do we think that they're going to make it to the playoffs and then they're going to fizzle out super quick?
I think, and I'll say this real quickly, I think the Tigers, of all the teams we've mentioned, have the biggest chance of tripping up. The Astros could be, there's and there are a lot of Astros fans who feel like the Astros could be, because they're just like, I don't know if they're all going to be healthy and whatever. But yeah, the Tigers were so great, and then it was like the bottom fell out. But you catch a hot streak, then beat anybody.
The Blue Jays, Jeff, I like what you said. Like, you don't really buy the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays also have a high bust potential because their pitching rotation going into the playoffs is relying on, we have Kevin Gausman. He's great. Chris Bassett, I don't know how good he is anymore. By the way, I went to college with Chris Bassett. That's another story for another day. And you got Max Scherzer and Shane Bieber, who are like not the same versions of himself they used to be, but if they're going to go anywhere in the playoffs, those guys have to be the version they used to be. And I don't know how good their bullpen is, because their offseason closer signing has been atrocious, and their offense is finally coming around. But I think they have a high bust potential as well. And the Tigers don't want anybody talking about them right now. They want to hide in a corner and just act like they're not there. They just want, please don't talk about us. Please just let us be and figure this out before anybody else shines the spotlight on us a little bit more, because Jack Flaherty has not been good. They've had an injury to Reese Olson, who's one of my favorite pitchers, also my fantasy team. Thanks a lot, Reese. I know he doesn't want to be hurt, but it's killing me. And their bullpen's not as good as it was a year ago. And Austin, and I don't know what happened to Riley Green, man. He has just become a shell of himself in a matter of 8 weeks? Like, that's crazy. So yeah, the Tigers for sure are definitely in scared, like deer in the headlights mode right now.
One of you
It's
guys, and I forget
interesting.
which one of you did, but mentioned the Texas Rangers. Obviously, Brett, you're familiar with them out there in the West. That is a team that is starting to sneak up on people as well. Evaldi, DeGrom, getting Merrill Kelly. I know Patrick Corbin has got his career back after horrible seasons in Washington. That's been a team that surprised me, and I've been kind of impressed with. They feel like one of those teams that if they do sneak in, they might clip some people because of just Evaldi and DeGrom as their 1 and 2 in a series.
Yeah, exactly. That's a feeling here in Texas. You know, I tell my Yankees friends, look, the one thing the Rangers have on y'all is they actually beat us in the playoffs. And so at the end of the day, they've, like you said, they've got the pitching. Adolis Garcia, they're not depending on him. But they've got enough bats. I mean, now I know what Adolis Garcia can do to the Astros because I've seen it year after year. I know what Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. So they definitely have what we call Astros killers in their lineup. So, yes, you know, Rangers, chill out a little bit. We don't need you to be too hot. You know, we got enough competition in Seattle. But, yeah, look, hats off to them, respect to them, because I really did not think in the end they were going to be there. But, you know, here they are.
Speaking of who's going to be there, there are some teams on the bubble that look legit, and there are some teams they look really annoying right now. We'll tell you why in just a moment. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up and college football isn't far behind. It's the perfect time to lock in your season-long, more or less picks for the 2025 football season, all before Week 1 kicks off. Whether you've got your eye on the big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get into the game. I mean, you've got the Joe Burrows of the world and the Chase Browns of the world and the Jamar Chases. Okay, yes, I'm a Bengals fan, but there's so much to get into with the Bengals offense. Plus, you've got all kinds of great players all around the league. Is Saquon Barkley going to run for more yards than he did last year? You never put it past him. That dude is amazing. You can get in on all of that more or less over on Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on your favorite podcast app. All of your favorite Locked On MLB shows are on every single podcast app you can think of. Check us out there today. All right, we talked about the bona fide championship contenders, but there are some teams that are on the bubble. So I guess we can kind of put the Rangers as a legitimate contender, even though they're on the bubble. Looks like they could really make a good run at the playoffs. There's definitely some teams that, you know, maybe ought to call Mike Schilt and see if they can get a nice winning streak going toward the end of August into April or into September. I'm mixing up my months there. But who on the bubble do you trust the most?
You mean to make a
Not
move
the
in
Rangers.
The Rangers. Yeah.
I think Jeff, you mean a team on the bubble that can make a move here in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, move into a spot and hold it.
I think you guys, the Reds, I thought if you would have won that game yesterday, man, that would have been really interesting. If you would have won that game against the Cubs on Wednesday. You know, but I think you guys are still I think the Reds are gonna make their move. Abbott is amazing, man. Take that guy on my team anytime. And I mean, I love what you guys did at the deadline. I'm worried about that series. The Brewers are going in there next weekend. Not this weekend, but the following weekend. They got to go to Cincinnati. It's going to be a tough 3-game series, man. You guys, whether you're in the race or not, a team I didn't want to face. The two teams I wouldn't want to face. You guys and JD's Cardinals. You didn't want to face either one of those teams down the stretch here.
The Reds seem to be the only team that can really
a legit one too. Like I agree with you, especially if you guys get Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo back. I know he's dealing with the blister issues on the ham, but to get somebody back for a pitching staff like a Hunter Green would be a monster addition to what you guys might be able to do over the final 6 weeks of the season. Because you guys have put a nice little stable of starting pitchers together with, if you go Green, Lodolo, and then of course you've got Andrew Abbott, but also adding Littell, which is a nice piece. Brian Singer, now like your fifth guy with Chase Burns and the smoke coming out of his right arm as a guy that if he needs to pitch, it can. You don't have to at this point with the depth you got. So, yeah, I think that's something. Obviously, your offense is something you might have to worry about, Jeff, because it's been a very up and down roller coaster for the Reds this year. So, if you can catch a heater as far as the offense goes, I don't see why you couldn't jump in and maybe take over a spot for, say, like the Padres, who I know they got this great bullpen, but I'm not totally sold on what they've got in the starting rotation. I mean, do you trust Dylan Cease after what you've seen this year? Pavetta's been insane, but you Darvish, Nestor Cortez. I mean, what are we looking at here? Is Michael King going to be something that becomes a person who can go without getting hurt again? So I feel like that's the issue that's going on with San Diego. I like a lot of their parts in the offensive side of things, but you know how it is when it gets down to the playoffs, it is pitching. And if you don't have it, like, you're going to get bounced real quick. And that's where I think if the Reds get healthy, they could probably swap with San Diego there.
The Reds or Terry Francona teams, I will say, always seem to perform better in the second half. That was the MO here in Cleveland. And I could see the Reds having that very good second half run too. I mean, they're already on it, but even though they're only 4-6 in their last 10, but yeah, you guys are absolutely right. The pitching is there. Although I think Brady Singer just walked somebody else while I recorded this, but their pitching is still pretty good. And that offense, like you said, it's dynamic. It does have a chance to be really hot. If you catch that Reds team in the middle of a hot stretch, like, everybody in that offense could do something that can beat you. And Terry Francona's teams, like I said, they're second half teams, so it wouldn't shock me at all. I think it's wide open for them to get in because the Mets are really hurting right now. The Padres, yeah, it's a little bit up and down. The American League, I have no idea. Like, the Yankees seem like they're never going to protect the lead ever again, and the Mariners are just really, really darn good. And the nice thing for Cleveland is behind Cleveland, it's Texas, and then after that, like, there's nobody. I don't think the Royals or the Rays are making that run. So, like, Cleveland and Texas both have shots, I think.
Do you trust your Guardians right now, Justin? I mean, I know you're as surprised as anybody that they have gone on this run, because it was 2 weeks ago where you're like, it looks like it might be over. They went on that losing streak, and now here we are, a game and a half out of a wild card spot after you sold people at the trade deadline. Like, are you the new Tigers? Are you the 2025 Tigers?
They're not. I have signed the Guardians' death certificate twice this season. The 10-game losing and the Emmanuel Clase suspension. I have said that was the end of the season both times, and it has not been. Do I trust them? No, because they've beat a bunch of bad teams, which you have to do. But they didn't sweep the Mets. Did they catch the Mets at a bad time? Maybe. But they have a really terrible schedule. I mean, they're playing the White Sox, they're playing the Marlins, who I know are a little scrappy right now. They're not a pushover. And the White Sox are here. They play the Braves, who are banged up. Like, they've got a really good chance in front of them to make some noise. And I'll say this too about the selling thing. They all they did was trade Shane Bieber. Shane Bieber has not impacted this team since 2022. That was the last time that he was really good for them. 2023, he was hurt half the year. 2024, he made 2 starts. So this team hasn't felt an impact from Shane Bieber, at least on the field, in 2 years. So they gave up nothing at the deadline. The only real loss for them right now is Emmanuel Clase, and they had no intention of doing that. But here we are. I don't know. I don't think the bullpen's going to hold up long term, but anything's possible at this point. And the rotation's starting to come together, which is nice.
The Guardians, at least as far as I know, are not planning on playing the Braves in a speedway. So that's a good thing. I recommend playing that in a ballpark, not at a NASCAR speedway. But I appreciate what you guys are saying, because definitely, as much as the vibes are immaculate in Milwaukee right now, the vibes couldn't be any colder in the city of Cincinnati, because there are so many people, especially after this latest loss to the Pirates, that are looking at this and they're like, this is the point. We're pointing at this day right here, August 7th, the loss against Paul Skeens and the Pirates, that this is the day that the Reds' playoffs hopes died. And I disagree with them. But quite frankly, I feel like that guy sitting in the corner in a straitjacket going, they're going to make it. They're going to make it. They're going to make it. It's because of the pitching. You can't quit this team because of that pitching. And Hunter Green is going to make a rehab start on Friday. And when he does that, they're going to get him up to around 80 pitches. And the idea is, I think if he is good to go after that, if he recovers well, then they will bring him up next week. And so he'll be back for the homestand. And then you can use Chase Burns as found money in whatever way they see fit there. I kind of want to see him move to the bullpen. I think he's got that kind of talent to do that, but we'll have to see exactly how they play that because, yeah, Brady Singer just had a clunker of a start where it was clear that the moment he gave up a solo shot to Brian Reynolds in the first inning, it hit him. Oh, man, I'm playing Paul Skeens. I needed to be perfect. And then he walked the bases loaded, gave up a couple of base hits, and then the game was well out of reach at that point because when you're playing Paul Skeens, you better only be down by like 1 or 2 by the time he gets pulled out of the game. So then you can make up that ground. But it was the kind of wall that this Reds team has hit over the last few years that has me a little bit worried. What they do next will tell me everything that I need to know because I know they got the pitching in the right places, but are they going to lay down and let the Pirates just run all over them for the next 3 days? If that's going to be the case, then I want to harness the positive energy right now of you guys telling me that the Reds are going to be that bubble team to make the run. But I'm seeing the smoke. I'm not seeing the forest for the trees right now, guys, and I'm really squinting really hard.
Oh, I think the fan base can't get down on losing to Paul Skeens. Now, if you get swept by the Pirates, I get it. But I mean, it's Paul Skeens. It's Paul Skeens. You guys just played a decent series against the Cubs, except for the Wednesday game. Like, yes, and you had Abbott on the hill. And it wasn't great for him on Wednesday, but still, no, it's not the beginning. Losing the Paul Skeens is not the beginning of the end to anybody, man. The Pirates are tough out, kind of like Miami. I mean, Miami's facing a team like that, facing a team like the Cardinals. Man, you don't want to face those teams. They got some guys on those teams who could play. And so, yeah, losing the Pirates is not a shame. You don't want to get swept by them, but losing a game here and there, you can't call off the season because of that.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, Jeff, I don't know if the Cincinnati Reds are going to get in, but I would be terrified if I was a fan of a team that had to play the Reds in the playoffs, because if you play a short series, who wants to face that pitching staff in a best 2 of 3?
I agree.
Can you imagine in October, Chase Burns coming out of that bullpen and pitching 2 innings or 3 innings?
That's
Absolutely
what I want.
not. Like that's the Padres and the
Yeah.
Mets lineups both could go very ice cold quickly if the Reds have to play them in October. I'd be terrified if they get in. I don't know if they'll get in, but I would not want to be facing them in the first round.
Yeah. They just got some decent pieces now. Like I know that it wasn't like a huge name, but solidifying the defense over at third with Brian Hayes, that was a great move. Miguel Andujar, that was a solid depth piece to add there. The Littell move. You've got Nick Martinez still. He can do pretty much anytime. What do you need me on 2 days rest? He shows up, throws 6 innings if you need. Whatever. He's just like that rubber arm that can do whatever you need. You've got a lot of good pieces in place to do some good things. You just got to believe in it, and I can understand why the fan base is sketchy about it because they're used to being disappointed in stuff. But it just takes one, right, Jeff? Just one playoff win, one series, and they'll all come flooding into GABP.
Well, that's the thing about all this. We could be playing some great baseball, or anybody could be playing well right now or poorly like the Mets are doing. But, man, you get to October and you have a bad couple of hours. Holy cow, then the season gets, like we found out, the season gets flushed down the toilet really quickly. Yep. You got to hopefully avoid that first round, that short series. But, I mean, I watched the Mets against Cleveland this week, and I look at the Mets and I'm like, man, you got all those stars in the lineup, and Alonso's having an MVP year. How are you sleepwalking in these games? And the Mets go through these slides. They had a 7-game winning streak, 2 weeks ago, and they just go into a slide, and it's like, man. And I feel like some of these teams. I mean, do you guys ever get the impression that some of these teams feel like their fan base will say, like the Dodgers, who went through a little bit of a slide there? Oh, we could just turn it off, and we'll turn it on when October comes. Man, that's hard to predict.
Yeah. No, and I feel like that's the best way to conclude this episode. Thank you so much for watching today's Locked On MLB Squad. Sorry, Locked On Central Squad. When it comes to Major League, well, no, Brett was here. Oh, but the Astros used to be in the Central. So yes, Locked On Central.
Oh, it's so confusing.
Yeah, you're gonna love all the movement of Major League Baseball. But every week we will have a MLB Squad show out for you discussing the big stories of the league. Now, I encourage you to go check out Locked On MLB Game Night. They got you covered every game, every night. They watch them all so that you don't have to. That's on Locked On MLB. We're all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.